Hello everyone, this is Pablo with crafties915.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to align your garments onto your platen on your heat press and how to align your transfers so that you can get a good transfer onto your shirts or hoodies. In this case I'm going to be working with a long sleeve shirt, so stick around. Okay, so the most important thing to do is to position your garment perfectly on the bottom platen. Otherwise, if you don't do this, your transfer is not going to be positioned perfectly on your garment, on your shirt. So in this case, I'm working with a long sleeve shirt. This is an XL shirt, and your platen and your heat press has a lot of a lot of things to show you where the center is. And one of those things, for example, I'm working with a Heat Press Nation Signature Series 16 by 20 press. This one has a handle right here that is centered on the bottom platen. And so what I like to do, and what I started doing when I first started using this heat press, is that I took my shirt and I took the collar, the edges of the collar, and I aligned them to that handle. And so by doing that, I work my way to the edge of the platen by holding on to the shoulders, the shoulder seams, and then the same thing with my left side. So here my collar is supposed to be placed centered on the platen. And so what I do now is I drag it up to the top corners of my bottom platen, and in this case I'm going to be printing on the back side of the shirt. And so now if you go by the front collar, or if you go by the tags, you're going to be misled, because most of the time the tags are not placed right on the center of the collar, and sometimes the front collar and the back collar are not aligned on the shirt. So go by this method, grabbing the edge of the collar and then working your way to the edges on the shoulder seams to the edges of the platen. The distance from the edge of the platen to the edge of the sleeve on both sides should be the same. And there we are, it's the same. And now on the bottom of my shirt, the distance from the edge of the platen to the edge of your shirt should be the same on both sides, which in this case it is. So now this heat press has an air shock right in the middle of the heat press, and let me show you that. There's the air shock, and if you notice, I tied this orange string to the air shock so that it can help me mark the center of that garment. What I do is I drag this string to the middle of that handle, that center of that handle. Okay, so during this step I'm doing two things. I'm doing my pre-press, which is about 3 to 4 seconds, and I'm also marking the center of my garment with this string. And so I'm going to perform a pre-press. And then let me show you that marked the center of my garment. Now I committed one of the cardinal sins of heat pressing, and that is leaving the garment and the collar on the platen. That's okay. I'm just going to move this up and off the platen. And so I have my guide to place my transfer. Now let me get my transfer and I'll show you how I place it on the platen. Okay, so I have my transfer here. This is a heat transfer vinyl. And on this sheet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the center of my transfer, but folding it in to itself and aligning the print itself, and not the transfer, but the print itself, and then making a little indentation there on the center. So there's my center of my transfer marked right there. Okay, this is heat transfer vinyl. One thing that you want to avoid is folding this in by the sticky side, because if you do that, and I did it when I first started, is any vinyl that sticks to the backing, it's gonna peel off, and so you've ruined, you know, your transfer that you worked so hard in weeding. You ruined it. So what I do is I fold it in on the glossy side where there's no adhesive. And so now that I have my center of my transfer already marked with that bend, that fold, then I'm going to align that to the line that I marked with the string on my garment. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to line up my center of my transfer to that line that I just marked with the string. Okay. And if you did both folds on the bottom and on the top of the transfer, then it would be a lot easier for you to line them up. So there it is. I'm about 5 inches from the top of my shirt, which is perfect placement for a back print. And I like to use a Teflon sheet every time I use heat transfer vinyl. So there's my print, and I like to give it a second pass for about 5 or 6 seconds, just for good measure. And there's my finished product. Okay, and so there's our finished product. A good placement on the back of a shirt using that hack that I showed you on how to center your transfers onto your garments.